So I know it's been a couple of days. I've been really tired, to be honest. I've just been fucking tired. Like I tried to like share some of the like things, like little notes that I saw that I thought were interesting, and yeah, I did share those, and like those thoughts and feelings and articles that I shared are all very real, but something happened today that I just kind of want to break down. Mostly because I know that no one else is going to do it. And then it goes in this like little loop where because you don't see anyone else do it, there's this idea that like there's not real people like me who are seriously having the actual thoughts that I'm having, and that my thoughts are abnormal. Like, my thoughts aren't abnormal. My experiences are not abnormal. And I live in the real world, so a lot of them are brought on, okay, by like shit that I see in reality. Now, here's a part that's exhausting about living in white America, which is something I've been doing my whole fucking life. There's something that happens, like, there's a lot of people, and I feel like you see this in artists like Swappy and like Gorilla, okay, Cardi B, even. All of their cultural norms are based off of Black America and whatever. There's not really any culture or anything that's about like there's just degradation and poverty. Like, that's what it is, because like unfortunately that's what most people experience, but that still is a valid experience, like experiencing poverty and like hypersexualization is real. And now we have artists who have just taken that entire lane, but obviously like nobody wants to occupy that lane. Like, it's not something that you just sign up for. Now, the exhausting part of being like the Black person who's living in white America is that like all of those stereotypes that keep coming from that group get pushed on you. So it's like some white person in your class, in your job, they see a Cardi B video and now they're like, "You are Cardi B." And you have to continue to explain, like, "No, I'm not Cardi B." Like, I'm not any of those things. And then, even more exhausting than that, let's say you're like a person who's actually into like beauty or fashion. Okay, I don't know. Maybe you're not, but like I am. So you have a really good idea of like what beautiful people actually look like. And then in the real world every day, though, because white America does a thing where like they are still 60% of the population. So it doesn't mean that like 60% of the population is like more attractive than the other part. Like, even if there's like one Black person, right, but that Black person is extremely beautiful, like that's a thing. And so they could be like way more attractive than the, millions of other ugly white people that exist. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just giving an example. But the normalization process that has happened here has made it so like every TV show, every movie, every internship, every job, every experience is like predicated on all of these things that have to do with like femininity and just whiteness. And so when you don't fit into that and there's no media, there's no content, like you're so lucky if you're like a little Black girl coming after, say, me or like Kiana Naomi, you're so fucking lucky because you actually have people who have just given you another experience, have given you like a glimpse into like Black middle class America. And that is worth so much. It's worth more than gold. You have no idea how exhausting it can be to like live this. And then it's like a million microaggressions. That's what it is. It'll just lead you to drinking. That's why we fucking need alcohol. Fuck what everybody else said. We have to have it. And then I have to listen to people all day tell me about how calm I am. Oh, you have such a calm demeanor. That's true. I do have a calm demeanor because I've seen everything. I have seen everything. I've seen shit that I should not have seen. I shouldn't have all the trauma that I have because there's just no reason for it to happen. But the thing that it really sucks is when you have such large proportions of Black people who just have no experiences with anything. Like, if they see one person, like say me, and she's doing something that's different than what they're used to, they're going to pick at it. They're just going to pick at it and pick at it and pick at it and try all of these things to like destroy it and make it non-beautiful like them, so that it will make sense to them. Like they can't just leave it alone and let it grow. No, 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 no. They have to pick at it and kill it and make it ugly like them. And that's actually what happens. It's kind of how you see in like a lot of black schools. There will be like one student who's interested in academia, and he'll be called a nerd, all these things, all these like derogatory terms. And everybody will laugh and everybody will continue to poke fun at that one kid, even though he's on the path towards success. But they don't actually know what the path to success looks like because no one has ever done it. The only people who've ever been successful have been the murder rappers and the drug dealers. So that's like they don't even have one example of anyone who's ever done anything else ever. And in terms of black women, all they know are strippers. They've never met anybody who's not a stripper ever. So every black woman in their mind is like a prostitute. Every single one. Imagine that. Living in a whole... Like, I just saw something. It was like some genius interview with Killer Mike. And he has a song called Motherless. Now, the song is about how he didn't have a mother and a grandmother or something, and that's why he turned out the way that he turned out. I meant to talk about this a while ago, but I was just too exhausted from all the other nigger shit that I saw. I couldn't even take it. I didn't have the capacity. So he basically goes on the Bill Maher show and talks about, he normalizes all the fuck shit that happens in Atlanta every single day. So he normalizes going to a strip club, dropping $100,000, going home to his wife. It was he talked about this like it was a frying chicken. I think he actually talked about buying fried chicken at the strip club. And then he talked about like the women who were in the strip club. He normalized their experiences of hypersexualization. These are probably black women that he was talking about. So the whole thing, his like lifestyle of indecency, he completely normalizes it, talks about it on this fucking show. Now I guess he wants to make a song, Motherless. Oh, I turned out this way because I didn't have a mother. No, that's not why. Mothers don't have much to do with why male children turn out the way that they do. They just don't. I mean, you could have a really good mother, but if your father's shit, then and you're a male child, it has nothing to do with the mother. He's a male child. Most of his upbringing has to do with like the males that he grew up around and his father. So I believe he had a father. So what he's actually saying is like, my father was trash, which is probably true. And his community is trash, which is probably true. The weird part about that is to this day, he actually has a community. There are tons of people, other rappers who I've heard talk about Killer Mike. They've talked about their friendship with Killer Mike. They know him. They hang out with him. They all go to parties together. He has a community. The point here is that his community is trash. Like, he's trash. His friends are trash. And these are the men that you guys are looking up to. These are the men who you're married to. When I continue to say over and over, there is no black community, this is the reason why you have to say it. These are the men who are there. And like, what are black women going to do? There's no one else for black women to pull from. And what ends up happening is you end up looking around in a whole circle. You do like a 360 view and you realize like there's no one. Like there's actually no one. Like everyone who sort of have their head on straight is like already married and taken away from the pool. So then you start to think like, okay, well maybe I should lower my standard or something, because like I don't want to like not procreate and just not be in a relationship with anyone. And then sometimes like the white supremacists are so extreme that like you feel like you can't tolerate them at all, and it becomes this state with, and then you can't go to the Latinx community because they're completely anti-black. So you just look at yourself. All you have is yourself. And then until like basically like just now, I would even say like maybe like this year, like 2023, other black women have started talking about things and getting really honest about their feelings around shit. But before that, we had this big ass facade where it was just like, oh yeah, things are kind of like this, even though they're really not. Things are like that, even though they're really not. And then you just kind of sit there and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there's no one who's ever had my experience ever, and I'm supposed to figure out how to navigate everything by myself for the first time. And it's all so strange. It's all so fucking strange. because you don't have any help, and that's just not the situation in anyone else's experience. Like everyone else always has help. They always have like a mentor, they always have like a guide. There's always someone else who's going to like guide them to the next step, except if you're black. If you're black for some reason, like you just never have anything. You're supposed to figure out how to like navigate everything by yourself for the first time, and that's just not a serious situation or experience for anyone else. And it's just so unsustainable. Like, why do we think that like black women are gonna have the capacity to like do all of that? Like, they won't ever. It's just not a real thing. And then it's so strange to continue to hear all this shit about like motherhood, marriage, and partnership when those things do not apply in the black community. The marriage rates in the black community are fucking abysmal. They're abysmal. Abysmal. Nobody's getting married because there are no husbands. All of the black men are poor. They're all poor and uneducated. The very small percentage who are educated and have, you know, decent incomes over $100,000 a year, they are literally already married. It's like 20 dudes, okay? The 20 guys who have, the 20 black men who have their shit together are over in a corner somewhere married with their families, but unfortunately having, like, let's say they each have 2 children. 40 new black people is not going to push up any sort of statistic in America. And that, so I was like listening to something yesterday that was talking about statistics, and it was talking about how like the Latino community is like 20% of the American population at this point. The white community is like 60% of the population, and the black community is like 6 or like 8 or something. Now, I don't know. I feel like we should just get very comfortable. Dear black people, you have to realize like what team you're on. You're African and you belong in Africa, which is a continent. It isn't the United States. If you, unfortunately, especially if you look around and you see yourself being poor, you see yourself like just working mad hard and not getting anywhere, there's actually no one to be mad at. You just have to realize like how much oppression like your ancestors went through that did not allow you to be like to inherit anything. What you're battling with is like the confusion of non-inheritance. Like everyone around you inherited stuff. Like all the white people around you inherited stuff. The Latina people around you inherited stuff. They inherited culture. They inherited money. They inherited men who want to like procreate with them. All of these things are things that they inherited, and those are things that you did not inherit. Like all the men who would potentially be your spouse are in prison or they're dead. And you have like there aren't other people coming in. Like all of the other people already have a space in the society, and that space is unfortunately not with you. And so it doesn't matter like how much you play into your purity politics. It doesn't matter like how great you are. It doesn't matter how pretty you are. The reality is you're a black woman, and like statistically your mate is dead. And so you have to like move forward in your personal life and build something. Like what you could do, I think a pragmatic thing to do would be to like root for your team, which is not America. Like America isn't your team. Your team is Africa and other African women, other African children who are depending on you to like push black people forward. It was a really hard lesson that I had to learn. I like that took me a very long time to learn. But I definitely understand it now. And I think I just want people to skip some steps. Like I don't want anyone to go through the confusion factor that I went through, where I felt like, oh, because I have American citizenship, I'm supposed to make this country better. At every step, I've got nothing but opposition, and I feel like every single part of my story has been used as like this laughing trope of what not to be, which is insane because I worked so hard. Imagine working that hard for nothing. It's the story of my fucking life. I really hope more African women like watch this channel and really take note. Go back and watch those videos if you have the time. I know there's a lot. There's like 3,000 videos on this channel, but damn, like sometimes you get really optimistic. You're like, shit is gonna change. You start feeling like Malcolm, Martin Luther King. You're like, it's gonna get better, and then you grow up and you realize it ain't gonna get better. It ain't gonna get better. Okay, but also there's nothing you can do about it. Those are just my thoughts for today. Comment below if you also have thoughts, or if anything I said kind of resonated with something that you feel or that you think. Unlike other groups, I don't think black women have the capacity to get off of the internet, because this might be the only space that we have to communicate with each other in a real way. Other people can actually go to their families because their families like care about them and have their best interests at heart. I don't think that that's the case for black women. If I'm wrong, tell me. I don't think I'm wrong.